Hey, party people. Today we are going to talk about fashion production. We're going to talk about how your clothes get made or how you're going to make your clothes. And we're starting this video right when you've had your show, okay? Whether it's on a runway or a trade show or your samples have hit the showroom and your showroom sales reps are calling the buyers, okay? You've made all your samples and the selling season has started. I'm going to use an old collection that I sketched out but never made from 100 years ago, 10, 11, 12 years ago, whatever. Sometimes when I'm sketching on a body, I don't render all the fabrics because maybe I haven't decided what colorways exactly I want it to be colored or whatever, or that's not where I'm thinking. Or oftentimes when you're designing, you don't have time to do beautiful renderings, okay? But I like to drop in some skin tone to show where the outfit is. Like here, I'm expressing that the top is sheer and then this patch is not sheer just by laying down the skin tone. And it's shorts, these are full length but hiked up. There's sheer panels, and because I played with so many sheer panels in this collection, I did want to drop the skin tone in there to express where those sheer panels would be. I mean, this shirt would be a completely different, it would be more of a rated NC-17 if the sheer panels were going the other way, if you catch my drift, right? Same with this one, okay? Anyway, so that's the collection, and I have here all my flats. And I would like to take this time to say that one of the mistakes I made with that collection is that I did not use a consistent flat size, and I don't remember why. But you see how all the flats are all different sizes? Like, here's a skirt and here's a skirt. Why is it not really on the same body? Okay? Why are these two pairs of shorts not on the same body? I don't know. But it's good for you to keep your flats consistent sizes so that you can see how, two t-shirts relate to each other in size. If these were done on the same flat template and the same size, then you could tell which one was boxier, which one was longer, which one had a more scooped neckline. But you can't really see that because they're completely different sizes. So do better than me. Listen, the actual process of cut, make, trim, like you have your patterns, you're going to make better patterns, and then you send it off to CMT factory, cut, make, trim. That part is pretty straightforward. It's the organizing of all of your garments to see what's going to be produced and in how many, and all of that prep work is going to take the most organizing, the most brain power, and you are going to see why I keep insisting to every single one of my new business clients, the ones that are just starting their businesses and usually do not have much of a fashion background, that starting with like 5 dresses is not actually too small, okay? Because every time I say something like that, people just look at me like, listen, okay, we could have this conversation again, but what it boils down to is there are a lot of successful companies out there that started with one great product. Spanx, Third Love, Rothy's. Ralph Lauren just started selling neckties. Elsa Schiaparelli got famous for one trompe l'oeil sweater. So, yeah, I'm so tired of this conversation. I love you. I love every single one of you. Please listen to me when I say you want to start small. But I have put together all these flats so you can see all the moving parts of doing production for a full collection. And when your eyes start crossing and you're tired of taking notes, maybe then you'll believe me. I love you all. I do. But y'all need to believe me on this. So I have cut out the flats from those pages and I have separated them into groups by fabric because that is often how you're going to make them. Not every cut and sew factory can produce every single fabric. Like the factories that can do leather, that can cut and sew leather, like leather cutting is very specialized. All right. So you have to hunt high and low to do leather right. These are all my leather things. These are all of my mesh, leather, and French terry things. So the way these designs work is these panels, here, I'll show you on the picture. So something like this is a mesh tank with a leather patch in the front. This is leather and mesh rugby stripe, okay? This whole collection was inspired by rugby stripe shirts. And you must be thinking, Zoe, are you really into sports? Because you have that football collection, now you have a rugby collection. I am honestly not into sports ball at all. Just personally, I'm obsessed with uniforms, just visually, okay? I love military uniforms, but I'm not super pro-military. I'm obsessed with all kinds of sports uniforms. Yeah, so anyway, rugby stripes are just big horizontal stripes. They're like, 2, 3, 4 inches wide, each stripe. And they are originally named after like OG rugby uniforms. Like rugby uniforms have evolved over time, but like way back in the day, I think what it was horizontal stripes were for rugby and vertical stripes were for football, soccer, okay? Anyway, so this was all inspired by rugby stripes being made out of, it would be a whole mesh piece with leather that would be appliqued on top. So all those pieces are here, okay? And they would absolutely go to a specialized place that could do leather, but also could handle, to have the machines to do mesh, all right? And these are French terry, which would be the same French terry as that would be on the back of a dress like this. So I also often say you don't want to source a fabric that you will only use for one garment in your whole collection. It's just, you want to use fabrics multiple times for working with minimums and just efficiency. You don't want to have 17 different fabrics in a collection. So even now we have 3 here. We have 1. These are 4-ply crepe. This is a very light wash linen. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because the leather I would use for a bottom weight like this for skirts and pants and jackets is thicker, not by much. I still want a really thin garment weight, Napa lamb, but I would try to source something much thinner. And I have sourced some really thin leathers over the years to do applique work with, but these would be 2 different leathers. So we have 7 base materials, and then of course there's linings and interfacings and all that kind of thing. So when you send out your lookbooks and your line sheets and you're ordering materials and sales is doing sales, okay, what are you doing at home, okay, or at your home office? First of all, you need to have an order by date. You need to have a deadline for all wholesale buyers to submit their orders. So you need to set a cutoff date so that you can gather up your orders so you can organize your orders to the factories, to the people at the fabric mills where you're ordering your materials, that sort of thing. So you're going to set a cutoff date, okay? Give them a few weeks. And during that time, you should have some kind of, if you have zero inkling as to what's going to sell, you should be working on other things like design for the next season, wrapping up production from the last season. Okay, if you didn't watch the fashion calendars video last week, I went over kind of when all the delivery dates are and when all the show dates are in that video. So go check that one out. Okay, once you start getting an idea of what's going to sell, because listen, just because you're selling all these pieces doesn't mean they're all going to sell. Okay, and it might turn out that your favorite piece in the whole collection is only your favorite and nobody else's favorite. Like nobody else wants it and it doesn't sell. And so you are going to have to let it go. You are not going to produce something that didn't sell. And if you only sold it to one store and they only ordered like 6 units, you should also have an order minimum for each piece, each style, whatever. Okay. Let me know if you want a line sheets video for all that kind of information. But if like only one store orders 6 units of one style, it's not worth the money to create a production pattern, to do a graded size set, all those things. You're not going to get that money back by just selling 6 units. And so you're going to have to go back to the store and be like, hi, this style is no longer available. Can I replace it with something else? Okay. And that's just life. And sometimes you just have to eat those orders. Sometimes you might decide that that store is too special. And they're like, well, if we can't get this jumpsuit, we don't want any of the whole order. And you might have to make some tough decisions on your relationship with that store. Okay, I'm getting sidetracked, but that's just life. Like all of these things, you can't just make these decisions in a vacuum. You have to turn over all these things in your mind every time you're making a decision. But at some point, you're gonna be touching base with your sales team, and you're gonna get some clue as to what is selling and what is not. And when you start getting orders for stuff, like let's say this dress is a big seller, then you know that you need to go ahead and start proceeding on the production process. And the production process actually starts with production patterns. Production patterns are not the same as sample patterns. Sample patterns, when you're doing a new design from scratch, you're putting it together, and maybe for the line sheet, the fit, you kind of finagle the fit. You put pins in the back for the pictures, something, you like adjust the thing for the runway show. If you know something is going to sell, this is the time that you go and you perfect the fit. Another thing you could do is work on the inside, because most of these people, they have not seen the inside. And so after all's said and done, maybe you decide it needs a lining. Maybe you decide the finishing looks cheap, and so you need to change the finishing. And sometimes that requires changing the seam allowances to create those new finishes. Okay. Another thing that could happen is, what is the industry term? Like corner shaping and seam allowance shaping. And I'll show you what that means. Let's pretend you have a pattern and you have a corner that looks like that. Okay. And then you have a 1/2 inch seam allowance and it looks like that. And because the corner is so steep, the seam allowance is also super steep. But when you're laying your patterns out for a marker and you're trying to tighten up your marker and have the patterns sit really close together, you are wasting so much. Like this could really mess up your marker and require you to use way more fabric than you had intended. This is the kind of thing where you go through your pattern and you decide, okay, or your pattern maker does, and decide which way the seam allowances are sitting. And so if the seam allowance is going to sit like this on your pattern, okay, like you sew it and it's going to be pushed this way, then what you're going to do is you're going to trace that. And so your new piece is going to be shaped to what it's going to look like when it's a finished garment. You see what I did there? And now you're removing all of this, and all these little corners, they start adding up and you start getting tighter markers. And the finished garment looks nicer because you don't have extra flaps of fabric that are like in corners and intersections of fabric and stuff like that. If you need to review the pattern for where you need interfacing, maybe that was rushed through during the sampling process, finesse all of your button placements, like all that stuff, okay? You need to be working on finalizing your tech packs so that everything is ready to go to the factory when it's ready to go. And once you get your orders and once you get a feel for, what's going to sell, you need to do your graded size sets. There is a debate on when you do a graded size set. A graded size set, so when you're first making your sample, you just make it in the one size. Maybe your middle size is a size 6 and this sample is in a size 6. And what you're offering to people is a size 0 to 12, okay? And some people are like, yeah, you need to make the graded size set and you need to do the fittings and all that stuff when you're sampling. And some people are like, no, you need to do it once you get the orders for this particular style. I'm team B. I am team don't do stuff if you don't gotta do stuff. Like, okay, that sounds lazy, but I promise you it's more about efficiency, okay? Because what if this dress doesn't sell? Those of you watching right now, a lot of you are like, that's beautiful. It's a simple shift dress, softly fitted with these beautiful tucks, versatile, classic. What the fabric would be beautiful, and depending on what color looks on my skin tone, I would wear that. Some of you are like, that's boring as hell. Okay? And that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, whatever. So you don't know if this is going to be made. And if this never gets sold, if nobody wants this dress, you have a graded size set for what? For what? You just wasted so much money, so much work, so much time, so much fabric. Forget it. I am definitely team do your graded size sets when you get the orders. Okay? So as you touch base, your salesperson is going to be like, this style is selling like bonkers. Like bonkers. And so you'll be like, oh, we should start. After you get your production pattern for that beautiful the sample size, you're going to start making the graded size sets, okay? And there's this joke that's really not a joke at all in the clothing industry where they say the sample size sells the best because that's the one where it was fitted on a body and all the fit kinks were smoothed out and tested. And then people just made a graded size set and they just decided like, okay, that's good enough and we're just going to grade it. And a lot of people don't test the grade. And so the other sizes don't fit as well as the sample size. And so it doesn't sell as well. Now, if you have a series, like a couple of pencil skirts, do you need to do a graded size set for both of these? Not really. Okay? Not really. Also, these trousers, they're styled differently, but this one is a lower waist. This one has a boxier leg. You know, the pockets are different, all that stuff. But the fit around the hips and waist and like the upper thighs are similar. And so do they need two separate graded size sets? No. Stuff like that, okay? So there are some that can be collapsed into one size run, but consider doing the size runs, okay? Right now, you are finalizing production patterns, you are completing, editing your tech packs, you are doing your size sets for all new bodies. Your first season, everything's going to be a new body. That's what you call like one garment, okay? A body, okay? That's what people call it. So you call it a body. For new bodies, for new fits, you should be doing this. If you have anything that you carried over from last season, like let's say you have a particular blouse cut that everyone loves the fit, they want it, they just want it in more colors, okay? Then go ahead and you can put that aside. That one's done. Of course, you're going to review all your materials and make sure everything is still looking peachy keen, all those things, but you don't have to do those, which is why, you know, it's easier. The more extra bodies you have, you know, the better, because you already know they sell, so you have some security in that. You've already worked on the fit. It's a load off on the production. It was probably a load off on the sampling as well, because you're like, oh yeah, that's sold. So let's just do that in, you know, this season's colors, you know? And your customer starts to rely on you for a certain style, certain fits. It's part of your brand. Like, it's good to have repeating styles. Everyone is like, oh, that's boring, Zoe. Like, it looks like I'm just a designer who just repeats styles. There's a difference between what you see on the runway and what gets sold in stores and what people look for when they shop there. And I want you to pick your favorite runway designer and go look at their runway shots and from like a previous season and what is currently in stores, whether it's their own online store or stores like Net-a-Porter, okay? And see what's actually selling. And you're going to start to see that they're not, like, the runway is for PR and marketing. It's very editorial. okay? And you want to, there are some pieces in this collection that I'm not even showing you that I had envisioned purely for the editorial. Like I wasn't going to go into production with it. And that's fine. Let's pretend we've done everything. The orders are in, the order deadline is set, and you have all the orders. And now you have to add them up. And you don't add them up to one big total. You have to separate all your totals. So let's just play with this style, okay? Let's pretend this is style number 1, 2, 3, 4. There is a process to naming style numbers. I have a style numbers video. Please go watch it, okay? You are going to put together your cut tickets. And this is going to be style number 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is going to be the cut ticket for a style 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And maybe you write at the top the description. You could have a little tiny copy of the flat. You could have a description. Let's say you're running this in blue, and I do not remember what this color story was. Let's say there's a blue one, there's a green one, and there's a black one, and there's a white one, okay? And in your tech pack, you should have your bill of materials, and you should have your colorways, where if you make one that's blue, what color are the buttons? And not just blue, but like specifically from the vendor, what is the button that you're ordering from that vendor that went on the sample, and what is the color name that that vendor gave that button, okay? Anyway, so you have these colorways, and then you have the sizes, okay? You could do them reverse, I don't really care, okay? Let's say, and you're going to fill out all these, okay? Adding up all your orders, okay? Your eyes are crossing at this point. It's like math. I didn't go into fashion for math. It's math. It's organizing numbers, which is a type of math, okay? So let's say, you know, let's say black always sells, white usually sells. You're going to add all these up. And then once you have all your cut tickets where all the pieces that you're going to run production in, you're going to go to the pattern cards and your tech packs where the yields are. How many buttons in one of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 buttons per shirt. How many shirts are being ordered? Okay. 567,000, whatever, okay? That's how many buttons you need to order. And then in this one, I have this little chain detail where I have little short strips of chain stitched to the pocket. So you're gonna need this chain measurement for all the shirts, and the chain measurement will get bigger as you grade the style, right? And so let's say 5 inches by 5,678 styles, okay, on average. What other materials? The outer linen, the wash linen. Do I need interfacing? Do I have any lining? No. Do I have any contrast fabric? Okay, so all these things need to add it up. And what you're going to do these massive cut tickets, hopefully they're massive. Okay, good luck to everyone. I hope your orders are massive and your cut tickets are massive and you make a lot of money selling a lot of beautiful, well-made, magical things, okay? And so you're going to put all these cut tickets together and you're going to put all these sizes and put all these things together, you know. You're going to put this order in. This one also uses the linen, but does not have the chains, but it does have a zipper. Okay, whatever, you're going to have to order all those zippers. And zipper ordering is also an art. And I was actually, at my first design job, I was the one tasked to order zippers, even though that wasn't technically part of my job, because I was the only one who could keep it straight in my head. But yeah, I think I have a zipper video somewhere. If I do, I'll link it below. But yeah, it's a lot, okay? It's a lot. You'd think it wouldn't be a lot, but it's like, first you have to, the tape width, okay? You have to think about the tape length. You have to think about the material for the teeth, whether it's nylon, plastic, metal, and then the teeth color, Like maybe you want an antique nickel, which is like the dingy silver versus a shiny nickel, the bright silver. The tape, the color of the zipper tape, okay, what kind of head you want, the pull, like what style pull you want on your zipper, whether it's a two-way zipper, invisible zipper, nylon zipper, whether it's it's a closed end zipper or one that opens all the way like a jacket zipper. Can you imagine if you bought a closed end zipper for jackets? No. Okay, so anyway, you got to order everything. You're ordering fabrics, you're ordering trims, especially if you have like custom dye jobs for certain fabrics. Okay. If you have prints, you need to order prints onto the specific fabrics you want those prints on. And yeah, if you have a print, you can absolutely use the same print in that collection on different fabrics. Like maybe you want it on the silk crepe and you also want it on the linen. People do that all the time. It looks great. Okay. You also need to be ordering all your labels and all your packaging materials like hang tags, however you're going to package up your orders. Make sure you have all of that in stock, okay? And, some of that can be happening while you're doing the graded size sets, because now that you have all your numbers and know what all you're going to be making, now you know for sure which styles need a graded size set. So after you've ordered everything, like ordering comes soon because you need that time, that shipping time, like custom making time for all your materials as you're doing your graded size sets. You also need to contact the factories who are making all these things to schedule it happening. It's like, hey, Bob, owner of Factory X, listen, I have, especially if you didn't do your sampling with them. If they're a factory that does sampling and production, be like, hi, Bob, remember those 4-ply crepe jumpsuits that you did for me? Yeah, they sold like gangbusters. Okay, are you ready for me to place a PO for 300 bodies? Wouldn't that be great? Yeah, you're ready? Awesome. Like, that's an easier conversation, okay? But if you're looking for a factory because you did the sample for all of these, gauze and leather pieces in-house, but you need a factory to do them, this is when you do them, okay? You've sent out the orders, and now you got to find someone who's going to do these, and you have to make sure that you get a sample back from them that shows that they can do the production. It's like, can you do this? During this process, when forced to prioritize anything, you need to prioritize okay, nothing is just one answer. Everything is multi-pronged. At this stage, you're probably like, F this. I don't want to do this no more. Okay, what you need to prioritize is your international, your overseas production, because it's just going to take longer. Sending stuff there is going to take longer. Them sending stuff back is going to take longer. Communication takes longer because of time zones. You're not going to get those snappy, like, across the city sort of answers. Language barriers often slow things down. All these things, taxes, things getting stuck at, when things are getting imported. I'm brain farting on the terminology, but all those things make overseas production longer. So if you have to push on anything, push overseas produce things first. And yeah, you can do both. Everywhere I've worked, we have done both overseas and domestic production, depending on what we're making. Okay. You're going to have to prioritize anything that requires any sort of embellishment, because that's an extra step in the process, whether it's screen printing t-shirts after the t-shirts have been made, whether it's embroidery that needs to be done like after the fabric is cut, but before the garment is sewn together. Okay. And the golden rule of factories, I know there's so many rules, right? The golden rule of factories is they don't start sewing until all the materials are in-house. Okay. They don't start a project and you can't tell them like, oh, the embroidered panels will be there any minute now. They're not going to start because it costs them money and time to turn over their factory to prepare for your production, whether they're attaching things to feet, setting up machines, setting up processes, getting the right workers, like all these things, like clearing the tables to lay out and cut your markers, all that stuff. And so you need to make sure everything is in-house at the same time. So if you need to send stuff out to get embroidered, that needs to be cut first, okay? And this is something when you're designing, you need to think about the production process. So if you have an embroidery, let's pretend you have this jumpsuit and you have this embroidery that goes like across the top and bottom like that, okay? Then you're going to have to partially sew the garment, embroider it, and then because they are going to embroider flat pieces. They're not going to get in there with their arm and embroider stuff, okay? So you can't sew a complete garment. You're going to have to send like this panel over, okay? Sew in your darts, sew the bodice to the pants, not the pockets, okay? And then they're going to embroider this, and then they have to send it back to sew up the rest of the garment. Okay. So this is what I mean by like you have to understand construction and process to make yourself a better designer. If you have the budget, if your price point is high enough, then okay. But if you're trying to give great quality but keep those costs real low, you're going to have to forego designs like this. And maybe you need to keep that design to just one spot, like whether it's your thigh or your upper chest area, and keep that embroidery up there. Maybe you do have two panels, but they don't cross over the waist seam, so that you can just send panels out to get embroidered. So it's not like a back and forth sort of thing. Even if you have the factory handle all of that, because you're not overseeing it domestically, but the whole factory is doing that. That whole process, it just does make the production longer, okay? And there's more room for error in all these things, okay? Check-in time, okay? Number one, you've got all your orders in and you're getting all your numbers ready and you've got your cut tickets and you've ordered all your materials. You have touched base with all your factories or sourced all your factories to make sure you're going to have people to do the production. You are finalizing your tech packs, editing your tech packs. You are finalizing your production patterns from your sample patterns. You are making your graded size sets and fixing anything that may come up in there. And then you're making markers. And markers are not this kind of marker, but a marker where you lay out the pattern pieces on a piece of paper that is the same width as your final fabric, because all fabrics are different widths. So you need the width of that, and you need to lay out all the pattern pieces for all your sizes, and you're going to get someone to do it because it's a little bit more finessing with the numbers and how many layers of fabric and, you know, making sure that your marker fits as many pieces as possible so you're wasting as little fabric as possible. All right? Everything is getting sent to your factories. You have two options. You can ask fabric people, trims people, whatever, to send it all to you, and then you send it out to your factories. So you can check for quantities, make sure the right quantities are going out. Let's say the button place will only let you buy a box of 20,000 buttons, and you don't want to send 20,000 buttons to your factory if you only need 10,000. Because trust me, they will mysteriously get lost, and then you'll have to buy more buttons next time. So you want to only give them a few extras because, you know, their buttons are little. They get lost. It's fine for a few, okay? Give them a few extra, but you don't want to send over double the amount that they need because they will disappear, okay? So you could do that, or you can have everything forwarded over there. That kind of depends on how much control you like. They got their POs, okay? You have to write official purchase orders. You got to get your money together for production because all these factories have their own terms. Some are like, we don't start till you pay up. We expect money upon delivery, and if you don't have the money, you don't get it. Whatever, okay? So get your money together, your purchase orders, your materials, your tech packs. If possible, send everyone a sew-by sample, because sew-by sample is just that's what it is. It's a sample to look at while they're sewing it, so they know to precisely sew the dress according to your sample. So anytime they have pattern, anytime they have sewing questions, they can go right to that sample and be like, oh, just like this. Okay. It really beats any tech pack. Like, you should definitely have both. But the sewers on the sewing floor, the factory floor, they don't always speak the same language you speak, or whatever language you use in your tech pack. Sometimes they just don't care to look at all that stuff because reading is boring. I'm kidding. I love reading, but not that kind of stuff. They just want to look at it and be like, oh, this kind of thing. Maybe they don't know what everything is called, but they know how to sew it beautifully. There are definitely people like that too. So send them a sew-by sample, okay? So you've got all that stuff sent out to them, and they are going to cut it out. Cut, make, trim, CMT, cut, make, trim, and finish it to whatever specification you told them. If you want them to package them in poly bags and hang them on hangers, you have to negotiate for that. If you want them just to fold them up and send them over, you have to communicate that, all right? And then the last thing is the factory needs to send you a TOP. TOP stands for top of production. And so when they start sewing up these jumpsuits or whatever, they should send you the first finished one, top of production, so that, I mean, they're sewing. And so depending on how far the factory is from you and how long it takes for you to get the TOP, there might be not a lot you can do, but hopefully it'll look beautifully. It'll assuage your mind that everything is going to turn out just like this one. Or, you know, maybe it's not too late and be like, oh my God, you messed up. So stop sewing, stop sewing, stop sewing. And maybe you can salvage half the order. Listen, you got to laugh, because if you don't laugh, you cry. Okay? So get those TOPs, top of production samples, which aren't really samples. They're just examples of what you're going to be getting. And that's production, y'all. And then you got to get them in-house. And then you need to look at the orders that came in, the EDIs and everything. And you need to make sure that you're packaging your orders to the stores exactly the way the store wants you to, okay? Because if you don't, there's chargebacks involved, and that's a whole, I mean, basically, especially like big stores like Nordstrom, like department stores, they get really nitpicky on their orders, and they'll say things like, for example, this is not what they say, but for example, they'll say things like, they're going to send over the price tag barcode, you know, hang tag, and you need to punch it into the left-hand side in the side seam 2 inches down from the armhole. And if it's on the wrong side, charge back. If it's like too far from 2 inches to be tolerable, charge back. If you forget those price code hang tags, charge back, charge back, charge back, charge back. There are like horror stories of chargeback invoices that are more than the actual invoice of the clothing. Okay, so you need, like, I had a boss who she would do our Nordstrom orders herself. Okay, because she was so scared of chargebacks. Okay, so you need to package everything up and label everything and ship everything to the stores precisely to each store's specifications. And that's production. That's how your clothes get made. That's how people make your clothes, whichever side of the industry you're watching this from. Share, subscribe, give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new today. Drop me your questions below and also your video requests, and I will see you in the next video.